today to have this man here on the Power Transformation Podcast. And it's always fun when you get to interview another fellow podcaster, world changer, and that is none other than Curtis Kelley. Welcome, Curtis, to the Power Transformation Podcast.
Thank you, Alethea, and thank you, Power Transformation family. What's good? It's Curtis Kelley, CEO of the Culture Marauders, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, I love it. And we are going to have such a phenomenal conversation. And for those of you who are listening to this, if you were to see behind Curtis, you would see such an array of designs, from musicians to artwork to things dealing with culture. And that's all a part of who Curtis is, what he does, who he stands for. But before we get into the depth of this interview, because Curtis has such an empowering story and message that will definitely transform your life, I have to ask first. I always start with a light-hearted icebreaker question, Curtis. And that question is this. We are already in October of 2025. And the question is, what do you like most about this time of year, October, November, December, and why?
Well, first of all, here in Florida, it gets cooler at some point, right? It's still about mid 80s, but that's way better than the low 90s and the high humidity that we have. So I like the food. My wife and I have already gotten down on some apple cider donuts. Did that. She's hit up the pumpkin spice lattes. Just the feeling football's back, basketball's coming back. And then you start getting into the holiday spirit. I love horror movies. So looking at doing a Universal Halloween Horror Nights. So birthdays, my son is turning 21 at the end of the month. My wife her birthday is coming up in November, and then mine is in December with Christmas. What's there not to love, right? It's just a bunch of fun events and opportunities to get together with families. So that's my favorite time of the year, this whole time right here.
Wow, I love that. It's so festive. And with you all having birthdays and everything else, that makes it even more enjoyable. And the one thing that is not for me, but my boyfriend would love you about, is I don't do well with horror movies. And I don't do well
There's so
with
many good ones out right now, but
I can't do it. Oh my gosh. That's a whole other chat offline, but oh my gosh, I am such a wimp when it comes to horror movies. And my love, Brandon, I know he's going to be hearing this, and Brandon just shakes his head every time that he wants to watch something. I'll watch it, but it's so uncomfortable for me. But anyway,
try to sit through Weapons. It's fairly new. That's a good one. It's a suspense, all kinds of jump scares, all that good stuff. I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's good.
I'll take your word for it. But outside of that, we now know that bit about you. But I'm going to ask you a question that I think is that billion-dollar question that I love to ask everybody. Who is Curtis Kelley?
Oh man, my wife asked me that when we were on a vacation, and I can't really tie it down to one particular thing, because we're always changing as people, right? We're never a finished product. So currently, who I am, I'm just enjoying life, enjoying the thrill of the unknown, and being able to create my way. 20 years in the Air Force, you're structured and you're kind of told the lines within to paint. As soon as I retired, it was just like an explosion of creativity. And unfortunately, but fortunately, that creativity was unable to be unleashed and worked with during the pandemic. So I had plenty of time to really start digging into some ideas and just be creative. So, creative, I'm constantly learning, and just getting out and engaging with people, just finding out the main purpose of my work, at the core of what I do, is understanding how we move amongst each other throughout this world and how we can be better to each other. That's the core of everything I do, learning opportunities. So yeah, I guess I'm in my uniting era, if there's, Taylor Swift fans out there, but in my uniting era where, just bringing people together to do good, because there's so much wild stuff happening in the world. We need some positivity and unity.
Now, Curtis, when you talk about bringing people together and that we need positivity, Was that always instilled in you from a young age, or did you have this type of personality trait in you develop as you grew older?
You know, it's funny. I watched a lot of movies growing up, right? A
Mhm.
lot of movies, probably more than the kids should probably be watching. But um, just by nature, you learn things from characters, and then as you go on your own journey, you learn about yourself, right? So, um, and not to brag or say this in any other way, but as a child, even in elementary school, I was nominated for a leadership academy at McMurray University when I was a child, with other classmates. Captain of football teams, leadership in the military
Wow.
opportunities, leadership academies, and then positions in the corporate world. So, and these aren't things that I necessarily sought. It's just opportunities. I was raised a military brat. So I there was no other way around it, right? Discipline and things like that. My parents did a great job with that with my sister and I. But and then just an opportunity to see the world, right? As a military brat and also as a former military active duty service member, I got a chance to travel the world and just see people in their environments and where they're at and meet these folks and whether they be people from Africa, whether it be people from the Philippines, whether it be people from India, Pakistan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, all these different nations and countries, Europe, all over Europe. You get to, immerse yourself. You have a unique opportunity to immerse yourself in those cultures and learn from them. And so I've always taken that. I think as a leader, you need to learn how to follow first before you can lead. And that means putting yourself in these different situations and learning on how to lead from there. So, yeah, it's just a lot of different opportunities, kind of like a perfect storm of
Yeah.
intentionality.
And so, is hearing that you were a military brat,
Mhm.
did joining the Air Force come naturally for you, meaning that was the expectation,
Oh,
or
absolutely not.
what inspired you to do that? And how did being in the Air Force and just being a veteran in general, how has that transformed your life?
So I really didn't want to be in the military. Moving around,
Interesting.
I've gone to 11 different schools in my life. And so my oldest has done the same prior to my retirement. And I just didn't like the lifestyle. My father, when I was younger, he'd be gone for a week doing the mission. He'd come back and it was just my mom, my sister, and I. And it was a lot of time apart. Towards my senior year in 1998, which is a long time ago.
That's okay. We're in that same era. I'm 99, so yeah.
All right.
So see, we
So I'm
look. I say we graduated in the 20th century.
there you go. That and so
See, like so long ago.
I
Where did the
know, right?
time go, Curtis?
I
Where'd
look
it
at football,
go?
and I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic, but I'm looking at
It's
old
okay.
highlights from sports, and footage from there looks so old.
It
I'm like,
does. That's because
man.
we old, Curtis. Old. We old, man.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so,
Go
um,
ahead. Stay
yes,
focused. Stay
yes.
focused.
All right. Stay
Okay.
focused. So I wasn't really, I had no intention to go in the military. My father
Mhm.
was stationed in Clovis, New Mexico, and if you've never been there,
Oh.
you have no reason to go there. So I was hanging out in the mall my senior year, and I'm in the arcade, and next to the arcades, they strategically place all the recruiting offices around it,
Of
right? So they're
course.
catching the kids.
Uh-huh.
And I knew better. I'm like, nope, 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 nope. Well, it got towards like, February and I'm like, man, I don't want to stay home because I could have stayed home and went to school. I was like, that's out. It's time to do something. Well, all right. Well, I got four options. I guess it's Air Force. So let me pop in and see what these guys are talking about.
Mhm.
And so yeah, wound up speaking to a recruiter, getting a job in transportation, and everything else took off from there.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, came in, I got made an element leader inadvertently. I was standing in formation and the TI points, he goes, you. And I'm standing, I'm like, you right. So come forward. So made element leader, and you're in form of you're in charge of your line, right? Your element. So
Mhm.
you make sure they're shaped, they're formed, and all formation, all that stuff, marching and everything. So
Mhm.
did that. And then from then it was just different
Yeah.
opportunities to lead. But once I was in the military, and in the Air Force. My first duty station was Las Vegas, Nevada at 18 years old.
Oh my
Running
gosh.
wild by myself in Las
Wow.
Vegas, right? So that's a whole nother story for all the
Uh-huh.
but but my first deployment, 2000 in Saudi Arabia, and yeah, it was more of
Yeah,
a peacekeeping mission because it was the end of Southern Watch. But not long after that, 9
that's
11
right.
happens, and then
Yes, and Paul,
yeah,
yes, and so that's where I want to shift to is, you know, it is such a blessing to see you where you are now, and I don't take it lightly. I thank you sincerely for your
thank you, I appreciate it.
service because, I have military people in my, family, friends group, and 2001, September 11th changed everything.
Everything.
We had a family friend. It was a man that grew up with my father. He was killed in Tower 2 of the
Man,
World Trade Center.
sorry to hear that.
But also on a personal note, a great friend, he was the husband of one of my high school friends, and we all went to high school together. He was class of 98, and his future wife who graduated with me. He unfortunately lost his life when he
Mm.
was deployed overseas in Afghanistan. And so I wanted to shift there because um military service, especially those of you who have served in conflict and in war times, is not taken lightly. Tell us, Curtis, about, keeping in mind this mission of learning the stories of people, understanding who we are as humans, and really helping to bridge that gap in human nature and what you do now. Share with me a pivotal moment during your time overseas that really not only got you to reflect on your life, but it caused you to shift, and a part of that person exists today in the work that you do.
Okay, I got two of them, and
Sure.
they're pretty heavy.
Mhm.
The first one, I'll use this from training, right? This was 2011, and it was during the drawdown in Iraq. So I was there in 2005 for the buildup, taking everything in Iraq. 2011, and we were pulling out. So my mission as convoy commander was to lead the convoys up to the different bases and start pulling everything out of the bases back down to send back home. Um, so first of all, before you go over and do that, you had to go through training, and we were in the hillside or hill country of San Antonio, out of this training base. And I have taught this class. I've gone through this class a couple of times, and now I was going through as a leader, as a convoy commander. And so we had different route scenarios where they simulated IEDs, improvised explosive devices going off on the roadsides. And you, as a convoy commander, you had to react to that, right? Okay, what vehicles need to be here? Which gun trucks need to be here to cut off the any roads so more cars can't come in? All these different factors, right? You have to make these decisions. And I froze, and in the middle of training, and during my run, everybody had sessions, and these were like 6 hour sessions that you had to run through and constantly be on your game. And I froze on the second one, and people are like, hey, what do we do, what do we do? And I couldn't make a correct decision. And so after that, they we went through it, finished up. It was toast after the first mess up. We get
Mhm.
back, it's late, and the cadre, they pulled me across and they're like, hey man, like, we thought you had this for sure. Like, it's just a matter of just formality of getting you certified. I was like, I don't know. I have no idea what happened. And so, you know, something that one of the cadre told me, and this sticks with me till this day. He goes, look, in this business and what you're going to do, you have to make a decision, right, wrong, or indifferent, and just live with
Mm.
it. And doing that, I have 15 lives, American lives in my hand that I'm responsible for, to make sure that we're able to go down range, accomplish the mission, and everybody comes back safe to their family. So that
Wow.
really hit me hard. That sense of gravity of the responsibility. So, I slept on it, or tried to sleep on as much as I can, because I had to redo it the next day. So that's a hard sleep, and you got to talk to your team, and bringing them together, and they know, right? Like, I failed, right? And I owned up to
Yeah.
it, and I pulled them together. I'm like, that's completely on me, so let's do it again. If there's questions, we run through it, let's take our time. And so we went through it, lo and behold, we got through it, everything was fine, got certified, went down range. we got hit, ID
Mm,
hit, and then but
wow.
everybody made it back safe. Nobody was injured. Everybody made it home safe. So that was one. The second one is a little more personal because it was a troop of mine, and he was going through some things. They had sent him away, for mental health issues, and they actually
Hmm.
put him in a facility for a little while. We go down, visit him, check on him, see he was good, make sure his wife was good because she was still at home. And wife they had a brand new baby together. There were some things, that I can't really speak to, personal
Yes.
things
Hmm.
among them.
That's
But
fine.
long story short, he ended up killing his baby. And yeah,
Oh my gosh.
and so,
Wow.
I got a phone call from my supervisor. He's like, "Hey, I need you to get to this hospital." It was a Saturday.
Mm,
I'm like, "What?" And I was like, "Just get to the hospital." So I get there and I'm like, "What's going on?" So they airlifted, the baby in, and the
my
parents
God.
rode in, and he was out of the facility by this time. So they rode in, and I'm like looking, and he looks at me, and his face just drops. And I'm sitting there, and where it was strange was that my daughter was going to be a year old within 2 weeks. And so with that newborn, so you for me, it's a matter, that's where the part of just checking in, right? Just
Yeah.
making sure that people, and if you're not sure, just put forth the effort. And I know there's not a lot that I could have done to change that, right? He was going to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Live with him. I can't be there 24/7. But just the fact like that, caring, right? It costs absolutely nothing,
Mm,
just following up. So that sticks with me. That sticks with me a lot. And just the fact that, could it, I asked myself, could it have been prevented? Could it have been changed or whatever? We'll never know. But
that's
going
right.
forward, I make a deliberate effort to make connections with people and show that, you matter, and that you're important, and you
Mm,
have things going on in your life. You can talk. So
yeah.
those are two stories.
Ooh, that's absolutely powerful. And I think that that latter story, both are phenomenal and incredible, but that latter story speaks to the power of connection and care.
Mm,
And simply the fact, although what happened was not preventable, his reaction to you
mm,
showed that you had meaning in his life, showed that he knew you and he knew that you sincerely cared.
mm,
And that's something, unfortunately, his wife, their family, everybody has to live with. And it's so
yeah.
easy for some people to say or be outraged or angry, but we never know
No.
when rock bottom can hit. I think we're all a moment away from insanity. No matter
Especially
how
today, right?
much we
Oh.
keep it together,
Uh,
you just never know. And I think that it does count to that. And Curtis, the fact that something like that, living in wartime, experiencing it, could have paralyzed you,
mhm.
but it caused you to keep moving forward, and that somehow deep down you knew that your life had so much more to offer. I'm not certain if you knew at that moment or not, but let's shift into where you are now and the fact that you have this platform. You are very adamant about your own podcast, but also even more with the work you do, you and your wife do. Take us there in terms of what sparked you to not only create the podcast, how you came up with the name, but simply this mission that you have now, because you certainly have so much more to offer. And how important is it for other people to realize that?
Sure. So I'll start it back. I
Yeah.
retired in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And while I didn't miss the work of the military, I missed the people. I missed the conversations, the smoke pits where we just go out there. Even if you didn't smoke, you go out there and just, BS and talk crazy,
Mm-hmm.
have a good time before you get back to work. So I missed that, right? And that's where you get to learn a lot about the people you work with. Man, I'm going through this, or oh, I got this going on. And it's just that talk. Well, I missed that, and so I created a podcast just to learn about people. That was the initial intent of the Culture Marauders. Well, like I said in the beginning, right? To learn how we move amongst each other or with each other throughout the world.
Mhm.
So the premise of it was marauding on all culture and delivering the goods to the masses, and then with the intent to enlighten and entertain. So it could be anybody from any background with something that they're doing that's cool, or they want to talk about, whether it be for a reason or just, hey, this is just some cool stuff I want to learn more about. So I did that for a few years. I haven't done an episode in quite some time because
Okay.
I was able to pivot right into podcast production. So I was constantly, editing my own stuff. I'm like, man, this it sucks, but it's part of the game. I didn't have any money to ask anybody to do it. So I was doing it myself.
Uh-huh.
And fortunately, somebody from the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses, somebody I was taking a business class with, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got a friend who's doing a podcast. She may need help editing." And so with that connection, I've been with this client for 3 years and then been adding clients since. So full podcast productions. I've always been a fan of hip hop, as you can see just from a piece
Yes.
on my wall, right? The name Culture Marauders is derived from A Tribe Called Quest's third album, Midnight Marauders, which is my favorite hip hop album. And so I took the name Marauders, mixed it with culture, bong bong, there it is, Culture Marauders, right? So,
Mhm.
um, so I took it from that, and I love hip hop, as I said, so I it's a part of me. Well, unfortunately, I can't rap, I can't break dance, I can't draw, but I know music. And so
Uh-huh.
naturally, DJing became something like I know beats. I played orchestra in middle school, so
Oh.
upright bass. So I know music, and I know a lot of music. So
Mhm.
I was able to get down on the turntables, and that's my link to hip hop. But that's also a link to storytelling, right? You can tell a journey within a DJ set, right? You can take somebody through an era and they can automatically hear a song and it will place them somewhere that's familiar, or in the 90s, 2000s. If I hear Jay-Z, can I get I know exactly where I was at. I was in Las Vegas in
Wow.
1998, 99, right? So I could play that, right? So it's the power of storytelling within song and music. And then also organizational culture consulting. I've had the opportunity within the military and the corporate sector to lead and shape and mold and carry forward a culture that's effective and fun. That's the main thing with me. If I'm
Mm.
working anywhere, I want it to be fun and enjoyable, and that the people feel like they have value, and the people feel like they have stake in what's happening, what the overall outcome is, right? And I firmly believe that if you take care of your people will take care of you. You may not
Mhm.
have to know every single aspect of the job and all that stuff, you don't need to know all that. But as long as you're taking care of your people and your people know what they're doing, they're going to take care of you. And I've been a prime example of it. I was in a somewhat of like a base fed X type
Mm.
where you had to deliver parts out to get
Yes.
jets up and running and all these things, and they had to be on time, right? I really didn't know exactly what that entailed, but I had a team that knew every single aspect of it. And you know how I took care of them? Every Friday, we would do a barbecue. I would go out there and grill. I was like,
Wow.
you know what? Y'all out there doing this? I got lunch. I'll go out and barbecue. So when they came back, they had something, whether it be ribs, hot dogs, whatever. We
Yeah.
would also keep it fun and do Friday challenges, right? Something goofy like who can eat the hot sauce, but it kept people engaged, right? It kept them coming to work energized. I had one guy tell me, he goes, "Man, it feels like I'm on a sitcom when I come to work." And I was like,
Mm.
"Good. That's good. You're
That's
having a good
right.
time." Even our commander got wind of our challenges, and she came down. Everybody stands up, and she goes, "Can I join the challenge?" I was like, "Yes."
Oh,
Everybody had a
wow.
good time. And we took a section that was, lacking and getting in a lot of trouble. And we became, award-winning flight because the team was so tight and nobody wanted to mess up the good thing that we had going. And they were productive and we were getting stuff done and having fun doing it. So it all ties back to, taking care of your people, having fun, and just being a conscious leader. It's important to know your people, right? It's like a coach, any good coach, you got to
Mhm.
know where to place your players, right? Everybody can't be a star player, but everybody can contribute to the overall goal and the victory. So, got to know where to, place your people in the best places for them to succeed. And so that's something that with leadership, you have to understand that you have to be willing to humble yourself, step back, and learn about the people that are under you and around you.
It's really interesting because just this morning I was on a podcast show and there was a panel of us and we were talking about leadership, resilience, and transformation. And
Um,
we touched on some of those key points when it comes to leadership in terms of how do you make those you're leading feel, but also we as leaders, and you say conscious leaders, I think it's so important
mhm.
that we are very intentional and purposeful about what we do and how we do it. And it leads me to ask you the question you brought up and said this was a group that had got into some trouble at first and all of that. And I want to bring up something that we talked about when we met, and we had a really great conversation about it. And I want to tie this into this. And it's all about the proverbial hornet's nest of getting into good trouble.
That's right,
So,
John Lewis.
heard yes, the late great John
Yeah,
Lewis,
yeah.
who I had the honor of knowing, an incredible man. Just being in his presence is phenomenal. I don't tell people that a lot unless it's
Mhm,
brought up, but he
mhm.
was an incredible human being,
I could only
and
imagine.
just to be in his presence was, oh my gosh,
I
just
got goosebumps just hearing you say
yeah,
that. Like,
yeah.
oh
He
man.
he he was not tall in stature, but
Mhm.
when you were around him, you stood erect and you
Like
just
he was a
had this.
giant as a kid,
Yes, he was a
right? Yeah.
yes, Curtis, exactly. He was a giant, although he wasn't a large, towering man, and he was very soft spoken, but yet you could hear a pin drop when he
Yeah.
spoke. He commanded the room. But anyway, with that being said, this is a great way to transition into this. Curtis, talking about this concept of good trouble, how to kick the proverbial hornet's nest to stir up good trouble. Those were your words. How has
Mhm.
that showed up in your life, and how does that look in the people that you lead?
Sure. I always believe that there's always another answer outside of no.
Yeah.
You just haven't found it yet, right? So no is temporary in some cases. So in some cases, but when it comes to business and improvement and equity and diversity and stuff like that, there is no room for no, in my opinion. Um, I've had to apply this, a few times, in the corporate world. And one example I'll give you, I just retired and I was in my internship with the company I'm employed with now. And I was going to these BRG meetings, business resource group meetings, and just sitting in, and it was for the Black affinity. I was like,
Mhm.
all right, hey, they had free food too. I was like, yeah, let me go check this out, right? So I'm sitting in there, and they're talking, and I was like, okay, I like this, so I'm gonna start going to their meetings. And I didn't say anything, right? Didn't say anything. I just sat in the back, and I just listened, and just how can I help? I didn't want to just jump in there and be like, oh man, this new guy, man, what does he know? I just sat and just listened. And it got around to the point where, okay, they started planning for MLK Day. And they're like, oh, okay, well, what are we going to do for MLK Day? And they're like, oh, we do this, this, and this. I said, y'all don't have MLK Day off? We had it for the military. And they're like, no. And I was like, why? And nobody could give me an answer. Everybody's like, I've had, people who were senior tenured there at least 20 years, like, no, we've never had MLK Day this whole time. And I'm like, it's a federal holiday. Like, it's not
Mhm.
a paid holiday. I said, okay. And so I was like, this doesn't make sense. And so I led a proposal for a company that's been around since 1974 to have MLK Day turned into a paid holiday. It was myself and two other coworkers. We put in the work for 7 months, had to present a few different times to a couple different people, a lot of research, but we got it done. And so that's to me, that's kicking the hornet's nest, stirring up good trouble because only
That's
good
right.
things came from that, right? So stuff like that, things that are I'm not going to say wrong, but things that could be corrected, right? Like it could be looked at from a different lens, right? And
Mhm.
you don't disregard that, especially as a federal holiday, because it means so much to a certain affinity. And I think if you were saying you're here to serve a certain affinity, then those certain days should also be recognized and observed as well within that. So yeah, that's how I look at doing that. Anytime there's something that needs to be called out, and I share this with people, like your voice matters regardless of what position you're in, no matter what you may think, you power you hold or lack thereof. you hold tremendous power in your voice, in your experience.
Mhm.
Everybody has a different story, so therefore your story is yours alone. You know your story, you know your person, you know your truth, and being able to speak to those things and elevate your voice to make change, it's so impactful, and it's not always going to be easy. And some people don't want to go through that, right? They may
Yeah.
want to hang back and wait for the next person to do it, but if you don't do it, either somebody else will do it and take off with it, or it
Mhm.
just won't get done, and you're sitting there just, man, what do we
Mhm.
do? So just understand the power of your voice. It takes just a little bit of effort to get somebody's attention, and then you can grow as a collective, because when one voice goes off, you're not the only one. People are either thinking it as well and then probably want to get involved. So, don't be afraid to stand out and shine in the eyes that count.
Wow. And I like that, and congratulations to you as well as the others who were, not giving up on that in
Hmm.
terms of saying this is something that needs to be recognized, honored, and that you did what needed to be done in order to make it happen. Now, what about the person who may have an idea, or they see something that's a pain point or a burden to them and they want to change it, but they see everybody else? Let's imagine we're at a table
Hmm.
and it's all of these change makers and key people there, and they may see who they need to talk to or how they need to get started, but they may have their own doubts, their
Oh,
own
okay.
fears. Yeah,
Uh,
fears, doubt, and want to have a seat at that table, but aren't quite sure about how to go about doing it. What do you say to that person who may either not know how to get there or say, oh, things are just going to always be how they are? There's no way that I can have that seat at the table. And I ask this based on so much that you do with diversity, so much that you do even with, helping an array of podcasters get their voice out, your service
mhm.
in the military, and so much more. Do people have that seat at the table if they really want? And how do they get there?
Absolutely. And the way I did it, and it may not work for everybody, right?
Hmm.
You have to be willing to just chill and listen, right? I couldn't just bust up in there and be like, yeah, yeah, we got to do A, B, C, and D. I'm like, hey, get this guy out of here. You
Yeah.
have to be able to you have to build that equity, right? You have to be consistent, because consistency builds credibility at some point, right? When you constantly show up, people are like, okay, yeah, yeah, they're paying attention. Then, all right. So show up and just listen, and don't be afraid to ask questions, right?
Hmm.
There's no such thing as a bad question, especially if you have the right intentions behind it, right? And then if you're asking those questions and they can't answer those questions for things that are leading to positive change, there you go. You got it right there. Because if they can't answer that question, that means there's something that needs to be changed or needs to be addressed to where they are more enlightened and more informed on that situation. So just because it's a no at the time, it may be because they don't know anything else about it, or hey, we're just going to say no and hope nobody asks us. Pressure, but professionally pressure, right? There's a different way of doing it, right? Just, not just busting up in there and talking about, hey, I want to know why this is like this. No, you're going to get shut down and probably fired if you go that
Hmm.
route.
Exactly.
But there's a professional way, like, hey, I know this is a federal holiday. Why aren't we celebrating this? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, you have a boss. I would like to speak to them and ask them. You see, there's a way. So
Hmm.
everybody has a boss, right? So don't be afraid, because fortune favors the bold, right? That's the old saying. And if you set back, change won't happen. And you can't be afraid, because there is unfair reprisal, right? You shouldn't be afraid just for asking a question, and know your HR, right? Know, things that are illegal, and that, you can't get in trouble for asking questions like that, especially if it's directed towards change. If it's not
Hmm.
offending anybody, or if it's not hurting anybody, or anything up negative against the organization, all you're doing is asking a question. So don't be afraid. But at first, you got to be willing to listen. You got to invest the time to understand, which direction and what your purpose is going to be towards that initiative.
And it makes me wonder also, Curtis, with the work that you do specifically in podcast production,
Mhm.
how do you go about selecting the clients that you want to work with? Do they have to align with some of your viewpoints? Are they all diverse? What compels you to say, sure, I'll take them on as a client? And I ask this based on, you
Mhm.
know, people having that confidence to reach out and say, I need help with this. And I
Yeah.
think that's also a first step at getting a seat at any table that we want
Mhm.
to be in, is actually speaking up. So, for people with the podcast that need the support and help and have the confidence, what is the process and how do you go about selecting clients? And if somebody's listening or watching, how can they contact you as well?
Oh man. Okay. All right. So with the podcast thing, I don't necessarily go out and source people. I believe it,
Got you.
that's not something I do. I usually have people reach out, which is great, and I appreciate
References.
references.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Word of
Refer
mouth.
you.
And
Very good. Very
I
good.
so far I haven't turned down anybody. I think everybody,
Okay.
deserves a voice. I think,
Mm-hmm.
from me being in the military and all these deployments, that's what I fought for you to have that voice and have that opinion, right? Whether I agree with it or not. If you want to do a show, talking about certain things now, I won't support any type of hate speech.
Yeah.
I won't be a part of that type of production. But anything else, right? If you just want to talk about, cats wearing socks, whatever. That's your story. If that's what you want to talk about, hey, I'm here to bring that story to life and make you shine in the best way possible.
Uh-huh.
That's not for me to say, right? And so that's the beauty of doing the podcasting, because it provides a platform and for folks to tell their story, talk about things they're interested in. And that's a learning opportunity that we get so close-minded, right? And we think, we're siloed and have these blinders when there's a world of different perspectives out there, a world of different opinions and just conversations to be had. So yeah, so that's what we do with the Culture Marauders. The best way you can find me, my website is not up yet. I'm going to work on that, but you can find me at,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, you can find
Uh-huh.
me on LinkedIn, Curtis Kelley, Kelley, or, email me at theculturemarauders@gmail.com. And, we can talk business. If you find a way to find my phone number, text me and hey, we can talk. So, I'm
Exactly.
an open book. So yeah.
Uh-huh. And it's totally fine, Curtis, if you don't have a website. I know so many entrepreneurs where, yes, a website is okay, but I get more leads and prospects just through networking, other platforms. I do have a website, but it's okay. You're giving a service, you're helping people, and that is what matters the
That's right.
most. And so I do appreciate that. And as we come to a close, Curtis, you have already done so much extensively in your life. And I joked earlier saying, yes, we're old. It was a joke, of
Oh,
course,
I am. I
but
feel
yeah,
it.
but yeah, but there's still so much more life left to be lived. And so
Mhm.
the question I have for you as we start to come to a close is, Curtis, what is it in your life that has transformed you the most? And what is it that you still have not quite done yet and you want to accomplish?
Ooh. All right. Man. So the first part again, because I was already
Yes.
from the lesson. The first,
What is
what is
something
transforming?
that
Got you.
has transformed you the most? It could be more than one thing, but what's
Mhm.
one key thing that has transformed your life the most?
Military experience and fatherhood. Those are
Oh,
the two things, right? And I guess it's from a protecting and leading and developing and nurturing and growing aspect, because they're kind of one and the same, right? So if you're charged with having troops, when I come in, it was just me, no stripes, just
mhm.
Airman Kelly,
Yeah.
doing the job, and I answered to somebody. But once you start taking people under your own and making sure that, okay, they have the things that they need to get the job done, that they are taking school, because that was a requirement. If you were one of my troops, if I'm taking classes, guess what? I expect you to take classes too if you want a nice rating on your evaluation, right? So I'm not going to
Right.
ask you to do something I'm not doing myself. So growing people, just helping them become the best version of what they can, because my thing is the military could cut you just like that, right?
Yeah.
What do you have if that happens? So I want to prepare people. And as I learned and went through my hiccups and ups and downs, I learned that, you do need to arm yourself and prepare yourself for life after the military. And so there it is, right? Taking care of people, setting people up,
Mhm.
starting this business, keeping people connected, keeping people growing, or helping them find opportunities to grow and elevate their voice. What I want to do next, man,
And I'm sure there's a lot of things. So
there
if
is.
you get to just pick something. What
Sure.
is something that you want to accomplish and you haven't quite yet?
I really want to I want to get into business, right? Like not
Mm.
a different style of business. Like
Okay,
I have a couple different ideas, right? Of business ideas. And so I'm developing those because
good.
my goal in 10 years I want to be fully retired, right? I'm
That's right.
45 right now. 55 I want to be done. But I want to
Understood.
leave something that's lasting in that time. And 55 if okay, if it's 60, cool. Whatever.
It's you want to have the option of if you want to continue to actively
There you
work
go.
hard as you're doing, or
Mhm.
I get it. It is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's that part, and I want to do professional speaking, and I have a
Oh,
way I want to do that. I have a way I want to tell my story in
okay.
a really cool, creative way. I'll share that with you after, but
Yeah,
a really
of
different way.
course.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So looking at that, my wife has motivated me. She's done a TED talk, and I'm like, man, I want to do that. That's pretty cool. So
Has
just
she? I
yeah,
didn't
she did.
realize that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, she did it in May up in Philly. So yeah, it was a public health focused, event.
Wow.
So she did that, and so just helping, just getting more involved in the community. I don't like politicians, but
Mhm.
but not all politicians are bad. Not all politicians are good, but I would like to, whatever cloud I carry, whatever presence I carry, I want to bring
Mhm.
that to affect positive change more so in the community. And, whether it be fundraising, nonprofits, whatever that may be,
Yeah.
a lot of money is getting shut off for a lot of important initiatives. So if I can be that gap to support those things and uplift the community and keep things running where people have food, where people don't have to worry about looking for the next meal or clothes and things
Mhm.
like that. That's what I feel like I'm here to do is lead in the community next.
Well, we hear all of that. And if there's anybody listening to this and they have stages and platforms, I have a lot of contacts in that area too. Contact Curtis, even if you don't need podcast
Mhm.
production. There's a look, I tell people all the time, and it's true. Sometimes, yes, as we should work towards what we want, but oftentimes, Curtis, what I'm saying is that sometimes all it takes is one right
Right.
person,
That's it.
one right connection
Mhm.
to open the floodgates for everything else that you intend to do in life. And I am believing, hoping, and praying that the floodgates will open for you, your wife, and your family, and that everything that you desire to come to pass, and your whys also. And even in the way that you said, you have business ideas. I'm very much like that
Mhm.
because I don't think everything is for everybody.
Right.
So for you to not share exactly what those business ideas are, that's wisdom to me.
Mhm.
And so, everybody has different paths, and some
Uh,
people may have said, "Oh, I want to do this and that." I'm not like that. I say it in general, "Oh, I'm writing a book. Oh, what is the title?" You'll find out soon enough, or something like that, right?
exactly, right?
So
And
yeah, like you'll find out.
that's something I left out. I am also working on a book as well. So
Oh,
it's
good.
yeah. Thank you for rejogging that. So I'm
Let us
working on
know.
that.
Yeah, and if it's finished by the time this comes out, let me know and I'll be sure to
It
advertise
will
it.
be.
But I want to
I'm
thank you,
I'm in the
Curtis.
early stages, but
Oh, okay, that's
I'm
fine then.
chapters. I've got a few chapters in, but yeah. So that's something that and if we have time, I know we're coming.
Mhm.
It's been therapeutic because
Okay.
it's having me go back and just kind of re-go through a lot of these stories and experiences and looking at them from 45-year-old eyes versus 23, 24, right?
Wow.
So yeah, it's fun and I'm excited about it. And maybe I can come back and talk about that
Of
another time.
course, of course. And I already know some other podcast hosts who also specialize in authors.
Oh, cool.
So when you are finished, please sincerely let me know. I can have you on mine, but also specific podcast hosts who look for authors and things like that. But I want to just thank you for just inspiring us today, giving us practical, tangible points in our life. And it has been an honor, Curtis,
Thank you.
having
Thank
you
you. It's been a lot
here
of fun. Thank
as a
you.
guest on the Power Transformation Podcast. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you, Alethea. And y'all be safe out there.
Thank Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow or subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. It helps us inspire even more listeners. And don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use a little power in their transformation. Until next time, keep bouncing back, keep rising, and be good to yourself and to others.